They told everyone it was an accident. Said I slipped, said I wasn't paying attention, said girls like me always find trouble and then cry about it later. That was the story they settled on after they tried to end my life. And for a while that lie worked because in this country sometimes the lie sounds more comfortable than the truth. I was 16 when it happened, growing up in a quiet coastal town I'll call Harbor Point. One of those places that looks perfect on postcards, white fences, clean schools, polite smiles. But underneath it all there's this unspoken rule about who matters and who doesn't. I knew early on I wasn't on the right side of that rule. I was the scholarship kid, the girl who kept her head down, straight A's, never late, never loud, hoping excellence would protect me. Spoiler alert, it didn't. At Harbor Point High, I learned how people can look right through you. Teachers praised me in meetings but avoided my eyes in the hall. Students laughed just loud enough for me to hear, then pretended they were joking. And leading that little circus was Trevor Cole. Golden boy, rich parents, star athlete. The kind of guy who never faced consequences because everyone assumed he couldn't possibly be wrong. His shadow followed me everywhere, whispers, shoulder bumps, jokes about how I should be grateful just to be there. I tried ignoring him. I tried being invisible. That just made him louder. The first time I pushed back wasn't even for myself. It was for a freshman named Eli. I found Trevor and his friends cornering him behind the gym, laughing while he shook, and something inside me snapped. I ran straight to a teacher, Ms. Aldridge, the one everyone trusted, the one who smiled during assemblies and talked about fairness. I told her exactly what was happening. She didn't even stand up. She just sighed, adjusted her scarf, and said, "Boys will be boys. Don't make a bigger deal out of it than it needs to be." That sentence hit harder than anything Trevor ever said. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how easy it was for adults to look away. So I stayed late at school the next week, telling myself I was just grabbing books, but really I was watching, listening, trying to understand how this place worked. And that's when I saw it. Miss Aldridge, alone with Trevor, laughing too close, touching his arm like they shared a secret. I froze. My stomach dropped. Suddenly, everything made sense. Protection, power, silence. After that, the pressure changed. Teachers watched me differently. Trevor smirked like he knew something I didn't. Then came the trip announcement. A ferry ride to a retired naval vessel turned museum framed as a reward for top academic performers. Miss Aldridge personally handed me the permission slip, smiling like she was doing me a favor. I remember thinking it felt wrong, but I didn't know why. I wish I had trusted that feeling. The morning of the trip, fog hugged the water so thick it felt like the world was holding its breath. On the deck, while everyone crowded the front for photos, Miss Aldridge asked me to help Trevor carry supplies to the back. Her hand rested on my shoulder just a second too long. Trevor led the way, whistling casual like nothing was about to happen. When we reached the stern, he turned, blocking my path. He smiled and said, "You really think you belong here, don't you?" I told him I was just here to learn, same as anyone. He laughed. "You're here because they let you be. Big difference." The first punch knocked the air out of me. The second dropped me to the deck. I remember tasting rust, hearing the water slap against steel. When Miss Aldridge stepped into view, calm as ever, I felt this awful flicker of hope. Maybe she'd stop it. Instead, she said, "Do it now, before someone comes back." They dragged me to the rail. I held on. I begged. She stepped on my fingers like she was crushing a cigarette, not a human hand. Then I was falling. The water was cold and endless. But my father had taught me how to survive it. He'd served for years, taught me not to panic, not to fight the current. So I floated. I breathed. I waited. And somehow, hours later, I crawled onto rocks miles away, broken but alive. We kept my survival quiet. My dad understood instinctively. Let them relax. Let them think the lie worked. When he went to the local police, they brushed him off, already holding a report, already holding evidence. A damp scarf. A story rehearsed too well. That's when my dad stopped asking for justice and started planning for it. He called old friends, people the town underestimated. They watched. They recorded. They learned that Ms. Aldridge wasn't just covering for Trevor, she was controlling him, manipulating his medication, poisoning his sick father to secure money and silence. Trevor wasn't strong. He was trapped. Graduation day came fast. Ms. Aldridge stood on stage, black dress, trembling voice, giving a speech about my tragic loss. The doors opened mid-sentence. My father walked in, calm, steady. Then the man everyone feared losing Trevor's father rolled onto the stage alive, listening. A recording played. Voices filled the room. The truth. And then I stepped out. The gasp was louder than any applause I've ever heard. Trevor collapsed. Ms. Aldridge screamed. Rio officers moved in. Not the local ones, the kind you can't buy. Years later, people still argue about what was right, what went too far. Some say revenge isn't justice. Some say silence would have been easier. All I know is this. If I had stayed quiet, I wouldn't be here. And neither would the truth. So let me ask you something. When you see power protecting itself, when silence feels safer than speaking, what do you do? Drop your thoughts below. Argue if you need to. These conversations matter, and if this story hit you, share it. Someone out there is still waiting for permission to speak.